Howdy, sports fans. Welcome back to the All the Rest podcast. We are having a look at week 2. We got some more anytime touchdown winners. We're going to look back at everything we did last week. We're going to look at some fantasy week 2 stuff. We got some weird props for you. JD Rouse is back for some more round robins. I got a little more Grover guidance if you got the wrong football on you. And we got one bet to save them all. Stick around. Welcome in, Mr. Rouse. How are you this afternoon?
I am great. How are you?
I am doing great. I'm excited for another week of NFL football. I talking with you earlier this week, with some of the people at home too. I'm sure feeling the same way. We talked about Christmas morning last week, and getting up. I woke up, Sunday morning and sent you that picture of the kid with the presents and under the tree and stuff, and we went and had a look at some stuff, and you were talking about how you were up early and couldn't get back to sleep, just excited for football to be back. It hasn't worn off. I feel the same way this week as I did last week. I think normally after a week or two, I think it's because we did well this week. We booked some winners, and we felt I think that helps contributing. That you're booking winners. I think makes it definitely more more likely to be excited about football. So absolutely.
Of course, yeah, we had that safe parlay we made earlier with the anytime touchdowns that hit.
Yep. I believe that was the Ridley Metcalf and Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, yeah.
That was a little bit of a sweat. Hill catching about 80 balls before he finally got in the end zone. We knew he was going to get there, though. I feel like we felt pretty good about that one. So we also had the weird ones. We had a defensive touchdown right away in the Dallas and Giants game, right? The blocked kick. The first touchdown was a defensive touchdown. I think I had one later as well, pick 6. I think Dallas had one. Well, obviously it was Dallas because the Giants scored negative 8 points. The MLS guidance we had last week, up 2-0, and then they leave 2 goals. They let 2 goals in, and they draw a tough draw. But again, we had it with the draw as a push, so not a bad little. It was a no sweat. They scored in the first 4 minutes, and then they scored again. So it felt bad to draw, but it was never one of those ones where you felt like you were going to lose the bet. So a push feels like a loss, but it could have been a lot worse. And then of course we had the one bet to rule them all. It was it was a little tight. It looked really good at the beginning. 16 points unanswered by Philly. We thought they're going to win this game by 50, and then they just tried to give it away. Went 20-9 Patriots down the stretch and just barely held them off with a 2-point conversion. And
we were sweating that one.
Yeah, it didn't feel good. I mean, cashing the ticket felt good, but watching it didn't feel very good. So, but I'm excited to get some more in. I feel like we had just the right amount of action last week, and we got some parlay stuff I'm sure that people want to look at this week. So let's jump right into it here. We got the Thursday night game. Well, for those of you that are watching this, we're filming Wednesday night here, and it's going to go up probably so when you're seeing this Friday or Saturday. So hopefully you're looking back on this. We're going to talk a little bit about this Philadelphia and Minnesota game. You might have somebody in this round robin. We might have somebody in here that we had, and it's going to be a nice introspect to look back on. So who do you like here? You have anybody in the Minnesota and Philly game?
I don't have them in with anything I going to combine later.
Sure.
But it's hard not to fire on the Eagles.
Sure.
Even though last week wasn't as good as I thought it'd be.
I think the Patriots are a better team than the Vikings are, though. So I think that the Vikings are more likely to be a little bit more leaky, especially in the secondary.
Yeah, my problem is getting the value out of some of these guys.
Sure.
Hurts, AJ, they're minus 110. And
sure.
One guy, if I had to pick, I think Dallas Goedert. He had no action. I mean,
yep.
He didn't even play the game, basically. I don't think that's going to happen this week. I think they do use him a little bit more.
Sure.
I think he could get into the end zone. So if I had to pick a guy, get some value, I think when I was looking at it, you get plus 230 out of him, I believe it was. I do like that. 200 is great for a.
I'm right there with you. I think I like Goddard, and I think Devontae Smith is marginally good value, about 100 plus 145 plus 50 plus 150. Like I think if you're going to get in, I think he's got a good chance of getting in, especially if Minnesota really doubles down on A.J. Brown, trying to stop him from getting in. So I think some of those secondary guys in Philly. I didn't love the Minnesota lines. I thought Jefferson and you like Jefferson to get in, because New England beat up Philly pretty good in the secondary of Kendrick Bourne, and so but minus like 150, minus 120 for Madison, like it's just the value just isn't there for me, But you don't play juice on winners, of course, but for me,
I like, if we're talking Madison here, I was looking and I like him scoring first at plus 1100.
to be the first to be the first points on the board.
First points on the board.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
I like doing just a small one of those, just kind of.
Maybe they march down and put one in right away. Yeah. Yeah, I don't hate that either. So moving into our Sunday games. The first one I have up on my board here is Detroit and Seattle. What do you think about this Detroit and Seattle game? This is an interesting one because they scored 90 points together last year.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the same. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I do like Brown. St. Brown's, he's the best on the team.
Basically even money, I think, when I looked I have him on my board, I think plus 105 or minus 105.
Exactly.
Yep.
Josh Reynolds, I think he can get some action. Like I said, I think everyone's going to score in this game.
Yeah.
I actually have Sam Laporta.
The tight end.
Yeah, I have him scoring. I think he's going to have a good day. Seahawks just
plus about 400, I think, or more than that.
No, he was
about 370.
235.
Oh,
and
235.
You would think, but I just think it's going to be a high-scoring game. That's why I think that is a little lower. I think both teams.
It's going to be a shootout.
And I think there's room for the running backs too. If you want, some people are worried about Montgomery taking over, doing more.
Sure.
But Gibbs will, as the year goes on, he's going to get more snaps and.
Yeah, I think they like him as a dynamic. Yeah, they like him as more of a dynamic kind of Swiss Army knife kind of guy doing a lot of the different stuff. I think I agree. I think eventually he's going to be a nice plus money touchdown guy. I don't necessarily know about this game. I think if this game is a great game for maybe him to break out because, like you said, I think there is going to be probably 80 points in this game. But, you can't – anytime you have an over-under that's like where this one is and, a history of these two teams, it's hard to not have somebody in that game. So, Green Bay, Atlanta here. One team coming off looking really good and another team coming off looking really good, but against the Panthers. So I don't know if it's really good or not, So
right.
I like A.J. Dillon in here, especially of course if they still have Aaron Jones on the board, and so Dillon only plus 110 to get in, and the Falcons, the only place they got really chunked last week was on the ground. Hubbard and Sanders both chunked them pretty nice, and I believe Sanders went in last week, so against the Falcons. So I think that was the only touchdown they gave up was one to Sanders. So I think Dillon's good value there, especially if you can get it earlier when Aaron Jones might still be on the board. I think if he is ruled out, then that A.J. Dillon bet probably drops all the way down to about a 130, minus 140 bet probably. So if you can still get it before Jones is ruled out, I think it's good value.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Romeo Doubs going in. Watson's didn't practice today. Still might not play. You can get Romeo Doubs for like 230.
Yep.
Plus 230. I like that. I think Love likes him. Love looked good.
We were talking today.
And I thought he was going to do.
Yeah, we were talking today about how he had 27 pass attempts and they go through and they rate the metrics and all the throws and all 20. He didn't have one that was rated as a poor throw. He had 10 or 11 incompletions, but 7 or 8 were throwaways, and a couple were short, and one was just a wide, and there wasn't any that were really poor balls, which was good. So I mean, and we talked about that last week too. You get a guy that spends that much time learning, especially from one of the best. Usually works out for him. So yeah, I think there's going to be. I'll talk a little bit about this later, but I think Love is going to have a good day as well. So I think having some of those Green Bay receivers or the tight ends or maybe the pass catching backs like Dillon. Is a good spot to be in. So, how about Chargers, Tennessee? What do you have lined up in Chargers, Tennessee? I got a weird one, but I want to see if you have it first. What do you think?
Mine's not weird. I think mine's kind of obvious. DeAndre Hopkins did have a little problem with his ankle today. I think he left early or didn't practice today.
I think he was limited. Yeah.
yeah, I have to see how that goes. But I mean, 13 targets last week. Um, Chargers gave up a billion yards to Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
I know Hill and Hopkins, they're not necessarily the same
Sure.
people, but I like Hopkins here. I like him scoring. Um, you know, I think I have him at plus 172, which I thought was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That will probably change by the time
Sure.
Sunday starts.
Yeah, the Chargers definitely gave up yardage to kind of the burner back, the burner wide receiver in Hill. Waddle didn't see a lot of action as kind of almost the possession guy, and I think with Treylon Burks in there playing underneath and looking for the possession, I think if Hopkins, not the speed that he used to have, but I think he's still looking to be their kind of maybe downfield guy. I don't hate that. I think I have the backup that end up out touching or out snapping Henry. Right, he was in fit. The Tajay Spears, yeah, and he's like plus 600 to go in, like plus 500, plus 600. Like anytime you get a running back that's on the field, 56% of the time, 56% of the snaps, and you can get him at plus 600. It's a long shot because obviously down at the goal line, Henry's the guy. But he ran, he was in 56% of snaps, and he was in 41% of snaps snaps between the 50 and the 20. So those kind of in between plays. Not red zone necessarily. He was only 30 some odd percent in the red zone, but he's a dynamic back. He's kind of one of those guys that squirts around a little bit. And I think if he's in a spot in like the 30-yard line and he catches something underneath, I think he's good value to go in. At plus 5 or 550. So
I can get behind that. I might have me throwing some extra parlays later.
It's a good one. Like I said, anytime you get a running back that's getting that type of snap count. I like when we have one and then you write it down. That makes me feel really good about it. It makes me feel like I made a good one. So,
I like that.
But yeah, I mean, you love Derrick Henry. The Chargers got absolutely gouged by the run last year. They were last in the league against the run last year. So of course you like Derrick Henry to go in, but he's the biggest minus on the board this week. Eckler was the biggest minus on the board last week, and look what happened. He chunked them up and he scored. Of course he did. And so I think that Derrick Henry is a great, obviously, choice to go in. I think he's minus 185 or 190. And so I think I like him where we liked Eckler last week, where he's better value as a plus to go in twice. So, yeah. So, how about Jacksonville, Kansas City? What do you think here? Do you have anything in there?
If Kelsey plays, he's scoring twice.
Okay.
I mean, there's
playing catch up
receivers. Oh.
See, and
Kelsey wanted to play last week.
Right.
Mahomes needs him.
Right.
He's got nobody. Kelsey's getting in twice. I mean.
See, and I almost disagree a little bit to a degree. I think that the interview that Mahomes came out and he did, where he said like, "I trust Kadarius." Remember, Kadarius had all the drops, and he came out and he said, "I trust him." Mahomes is one of those guys where if he comes out and he says the interview, I feel like that Kadarius Toney is going to lead the team in targets this week. So I think he's a great value to score at like plus 260. But I like Kelsey to go in as well. I think that this is a bounce back game for Kansas City, and I think they hang some points on Jacksonville. So, yeah, I thought Clyde Edwards-Helaire was pretty good value in this game at 450 too. He got some touches. I think he got 10 touches in the game, and
he had a lot more touches than I think. I mean,
I think he had 9.
Saying he was the third back.
Right, he had 9 carries, and I think Pacheco only had 8 carries. And Pacheco, when you look at his value in this game, he's like plus like 130 or something like that, or plus 170 to score. And then Edwards-Helaire, I feel like, who's getting almost a equal share of the touches at double the value, I think is good value. I personally don't like either of them to go in, but if you're going to fire on one of the running backs in the game, I think the Edwards-Helaire is the best value at that length. So.
And on the other side, I got Ridley going in again.
What's funny is I loved Ridley too, and then I thought to myself, we're going to do a podcast every week, and we're going to have Ridley going in every week. He's going to score 25 touchdowns this year if we can have our way. He looked great.
He might score.
He looked great. He looked great.
So,
and
I'm
going to
have to score. I think the Chiefs are, like I said, are going to have a bounce back game. I think Kelsey is a huge piece.
Yeah.
Like you said, Tony's not going to have that many drops.
Sure.
I think Sky Moore might take a smaller role, do a little bit more checkdowns,
right.
Not as those deeper plays.
But they're going to move the ball. I think they're going to have red zone opportunities. I agree with you. Yeah. see, Baltimore and Cincinnati. I was a little surprised by this line. Baltimore getting 3.5. I mean, I guess they didn't look great. They turned the ball over a little bit, but Cincinnati looked terrible. And I'm thinking it might have been weather related, but I think this is another interesting one. You look at the Baltimore, like all the Baltimore lines. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is the favorite to go in here. I think he was plus like 135 as they're the lowest for them, and Andrews I think was right there too. Probably if he plays like plus 150. Who I love if he plays. I think he's great value. But all the other guys on this Baltimore, this is another one where we looked at like remember last week we talked about New York, like the receiver core, none of them have good enough value to probably go in. You don't know where it's going to go. Well, the answer was nowhere. But this is one of those games where I think that's the opposite of that's going to happen. I think, Zay Flowers plus 250, Justice Hill plus 270, OBJ plus 380. I think there's really good value in even all those. Like I think like a Flowers, Hill, OBJ stack at about plus like 100 to 1, some type of stack in there, whatever they are when you put them together. I think the Ravens are going to come out and look clean, and I think they're going to move the ball, and I think they're going to put up points. So,
yeah, I agree. I love Zay Flowers here.
250, it's good value.
He gets in.
He looked great last week too. He probably should have went in.
He looked amazing.
Yeah. Led the team in catches, I think, targets as well.
I was just going to say that.
Yep. So, I mean, if you're going to take the Bengals side of it, obviously Jamar Chase is pretty good value at even money. I think plus 105 or plus 110, something like that, or even just straight across. Not going in last week, kind of just being invisible. And again, I don't know if it was weather related or if I don't know.
The weather was pretty bad, and I think both sides of the ball they weren't throwing, and the better rushing attack won, and I believe the Browns have the best rushing attacks.
Sure. So you like anything on Cincinnati on that side or no? I didn't have anything personally on there. Yeah.
I know it's not going to happen again. What happened last week, but
sure.
I don't love anything coming off that. I think some people might be.
DraftKings had the Bengals bait. That was one of their promos, right? The double value for bet on Jamar Chase to go in and get double value. And you and I both looked at it and we're like, yeah, all right. Then we look over and they fucking got us. They knew something we didn't. They had their weatherman in the office like, yeah, push Jamar Chase.
I know. I was after that game. Now I'm like, oh, what's the weather like in Cincy? What's the weather like
yeah.
Checking the weather on all these places.
Whatever. When we get up in Sunday morning and we go to put everything in, whatever the one, it's gonna be like, it'll be somebody, one of these games like. Take Amon-Ra St. Brown at plus 1, an additional boost. And we're going to look at the Seattle. Yeah, we're going to look back, and it's going to be pouring rain inside the Detroit Dome somehow. The roof is leaking or something. Yeah, so we got to keep an eye on the weather on those boosts. So, let's see. Tampa, Chicago. This is another one where, you take – I think the only thing you can take in Chicago probably is Fields to run one in, maybe two. But even then, I'm not putting any money on Chicago at this point. Like
right now, unless they let him loose. I mean, I think they had one design run for him last.
Yeah, which is insane considering how bad they are everywhere else. You would think they would have more design stuff for him, but yeah, I like Evans here plus 145, good value there. I like Baker Mayfield running it in 475, not bad value. Chicago's defense, not great. And so if you're taking guys to score on that Tampa side, Baker had a handful of scrambles last week, and you never know. I think it's good. I feel like every week I'm going to have at least one quarterback running one in. Because I had two last week. I had Herbert and Tannehill, I believe, going in. Not a great pick. Yeah. Well, it was Lawrence. It was Lawrence and Tannehill. And then I wanted to talk about Herbert, and I didn't put Herbert in, and then Herbert scored. And I remember when we were talking about it, he scored, and I was like, oh, I had Herbert. And then I looked at my list, and I was like, shit, I didn't have Herbert. I talked about Lawrence and Tannehill instead. So, yeah. I also think the problem with Tannehill is, are we not sure that he's not left-handed? Because he looked terrible on Sunday. So, yeah, more picks than
13 targets to D-Hop, though.
Man, but just so bad. Yeah. You have anybody Tampa, Chicago, or no?
No.
Not really.
Nothing that I love.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting one for us. They have only a medium slate out here Wednesday for us, so those are the ones I'm looking at. Those games. Is there anything else you have? Or
No, I think we touched everything that I liked.
yep,
My safe 3-time any scores of the week is going to be D Hop plus 170, Ridley plus 145, and then St. Brown
yep.
at plus 100.
I have Brown in mine as well. I have Brown, Dillon, and Evans at about 12-1 when you can put them together. So I'm sure yours is pretty similar, probably 15-1 with that 175 with D-Hop in there ish.
Yeah, it was around there.
Yeah. I got the long one. I got Spears, Tony, Justice Hill, and Baker Mayfield at just a paltry 570-1. You know, the old put the 5 and win $3,000. You know, just the old tickler. You know, as our buddy. Yep.
You're good.
The old, as our buddy J Rad likes to talk about, give him the tickler, the old tickler. So you know you gotta have one that gives partial casino ownership in every week. You know, it's 5 you'll never regret firing. Even though I went, what was my 4 last week? It was Tannehill and I was 0 for 4. You know. Yeah.
My round robin didn't hit, and that's kind of, my round robins are kind of one of those you're shooting for a home run.
We felt really good about it though right away. Like when Ridley scored that first touchdown early, we were like, "Oh God, 6,000! Here it comes!" You know. And then no one scored.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna say it was real nice the first 5 minutes, and then we were sweating.
Yeah. How does Dallas score 40 and CD doesn't get in the end zone? Pretty wild, right? That's because the defense did most of the work. That's why. But yeah. So. All right. So a couple weird props this week. Well, we have fantasy week 2 on there. Do you have? I don't have a ton going for fantasy. Do you have any guys you think are big candidates to break out this week that maybe struggled a little bit last week?
I mean, not really.
I think I love Amon-Ra St. Brown to go big this week. I think it's a good matchup for him. He was pretty quiet last week, and I think the Eagles offensively are getting back on board this week, I think. So.
And then kind of say we talked earlier, you have St. Brown. I have a lot of people in that game. I think Gibbs has a better week. He did okay, but I think a lot of people are getting, oh shoot, trade him while he's hot, trade him while the value's there.
Sure.
He's gonna come around. It's gonna look good.
Yep.
Things I'm not huge on are these wide receivers that came out of nowhere. Puka.
I'm super low on the Rams receiving core, especially against the best defense in the league. So I think that a lot of people are gonna buy. I think whatever his name was, Puko. He was the most added. He was the most added player on Yahoo Fantasy yesterday and the day before, I think. And I think that they're gonna have a nice crash back against a defense that's in the top 2 or 3 in the league after playing a defense that's in the bottom 2 or 3 in the league. So I think that the Rams are going to have a tough week. So I 100% agree with you there. And I'm still fading Cincinnati. I think I need to see something out of them. I think Burrows is going to be poor again, and I think that offense is still going to sputter. I think Baltimore beats up on them pretty well. So, yeah. All right, couple weird props. So last week, 2 for 2, betting. Will there be a defensive touchdown? I'm wondered how long I can hold out before I bet the will there be a safety bet, because it's in there. It's in the bag. It's in the bag somewhere, but I'm waiting for one. I need to see one. I need to see a safety, and that there was a safety in the Virginia Tech game last week, but that was I need to see an NFL safety, and then I can fire the. I'm like a shooter. I need to see the ball go through the hoop first before I can fire safety. Yep. But I love the Ravens alternate money line, or the Ravens alternate points line. They're getting 2.5, they're getting 3.5, depending on where you get it. If you tease it all the way 10 points the other way, laying just shy of a touchdown, like laying 6.5, you can get them at like plus 400. I like the Ravens to win outright to this week, but it's only about plus 155, 160. But I think they win handily. I don't think that it's a game they sneak by on. I think they're winning by 7-10 points, and so I think being able to tease them all the way up is really nice. About plus 380, plus 400, depending on where you get it. So
I thought that was pretty low.
Yeah.
plus three. Like I said, what'd you say? Plus 350.
I think
3.5.
yeah, plus 3.5, only a 150, I think, something like that in the money
I
line.
mean,
Yeah,
I wouldn't tease them to win by like 24 or anything, but
yeah, like last week. Yeah, subtle jab.
I definitely, yeah,
It's in
definitely like plus 10 though,
it.
and getting some money there.
Yeah, yeah. So moving that line 10 back the other way. So I like Jordan Love going over a touchdown and a half, plus 145 to throw two. I thought he looked really sound, a lot of good throws. And again, I think they're a good breakout candidate against an Atlanta team that I still maintain is bad. And the thing about the Atlanta game last week, people are on them because they looked good, but I don't think it was a testament to how good Atlanta looks. I think it was a testament to how bad Carolina is. And so I think and I think that Atlanta is a poor man's Chicago, which is saying a lot because I don't think Chicago's very good. Like obviously Desmond Ritter, or as our buddy likes to call him, what do you call him? David Ritter, or or yeah. Doesn't even our buddy that we fire with can't remember his name. He just always has the wrong name. David Ritter and Drummond, all sorts of different stuff. So I think that they're Chicago plus -1, and so I think that Love goes out and hangs at least a couple on him. So yeah, and I also love, this is a weird one. I love Anthony Richardson's longest completion over 32.5 yards. I think that's a good one. I just think Houston's secondary is just so bad, and that's a flip. That's just a standard juice -110. So, but that's just one of those ones where I just feel like he's going to open it up a little bit. He played a little safe. All his 80, what do I have on here? 86% of his plays were underneath, below 20 yards. He only went deep 3 or 4 times. So, but I think against a secondary that's a lot worse than Jacksonville's in Houston, I think he's going to have a little bit more success, hopefully. So. All right, give us a round robin, Mr. Rouse. Give us a round robin that we can look for this weekend.
Yeah. So last week round robin wasn't so good. We just need one of these to hit.
Sure.
And your season is good.
You're looking happy.
Round robins are going to cost you a little bit more money, depending on how many ways you want to go. I like going all ways, so I'm doing 4 legs. I have Sam Laporta to score a touchdown, Romeo Doubs to score a touchdown, Zay Flowers to score a touchdown, and Travis Kelce to score 2 touchdowns. Okay. That one, might scare people because, like, why would I bet the guy to score 2 touchdowns at only plus 330?
Sure.
Compared to just throwing in another there, but I don't want to say it's a lock that he's scoring 2, but he's scoring 2.
Yes.
I can't get enough of it. I'm gonna go 11 ways with that.
The old 11 way.
11 ways, so
$55.
10 on
110.
I do 5. And if
that's
all 4 of those hit, you're looking at a couple $1,000s.
That's the crazy thing about some of these round robins is even if you're a guy that's putting a lot of money down on games, and we have some guys that we give out that put tons and tons of money down on games. Like these are some of these games where you can put 10, 5, 10, 20 on spots, and if you can bank one of these, you're still walking away with a 4 or 5 figure payday, which is so nice. So it's a nice sprinkler on top of it. So
me personally, like I might throw 10 on each, so it's gonna be $110. If 2 of them hit at plus, all of them are plus 200 or more. If 2 of them hits, you're gonna get your money back and some.
Sure.
And
it's a nice thing about having a round robin where it's all big plus guys. I know we had like the round robin with the 2 touchdown guy, 3 2-touchdown guys last week, and then we had, I think I think we might have round robined some favorites, and we were looking like I don't think we ended up firing it. I think it was where it was 2 guys. If we got 2 out of 4, and like we would have been like a small loser, I think overall on it.
I did that last week, and then I was just like, why am I doing that? That's
take the big guys.
If you're gonna do it, take the big guys.
Sure.
Something that I think still realistic. I'm not having, as much as I thought Taysom Hill and Patterson were going to score.
The old Taysom Hill.
They're eventually going to score. They're probably never going to do it when it's in my round robins.
There was a lot of Taysom Hill on the screen last week for him not really doing much.
I like seeing it. Maybe kind of like you said earlier, I want to see him get in the end zone before I fire on him again. Same thing with Patterson. I think they can use him and make that Desmond, Dion, whatever, Riddler.
Desmond Ritter, yeah.
I think to help him out a little bit, I think the more weapons they use,
Sure.
better he can look. So, but until
Sure.
he's in there, I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah. All right, we've also got we got Grover's guidance to look at here. So for those of you that were here for football and not football, you clicked on the podcast and you see football and you think, I wouldn't mind some English Premier League action. So this week, obviously last week we had St. Louis. It looked really nice. They didn't get the win. They end up pulling back and drawing. And those are the ones where you're up 2 goals and you feel really good about it and you can see the cash and you come back and we got the draw. So if you had the play where the draw was a push, it sucks, but it still feels okay. So we're going to look this week. I really like Saturday morning game, 7 a.m. I like Brighton and Hove Albion against Manchester United. Man United struggling on the season so far, 2-2, -2 goal differential. They've looked terrible against competitors. Tottenham and Arsenal both beat them up pretty good. And they looked bad against a Nottingham Forest team that's not expected to compete for any European spots and maybe even a favorite for relegation. So they beat them, but only after they got down to 10 men, and even then it was only 3-2. And so Brighton, on the other hand, just coming off a really impressive win at home against Newcastle, 3-1. They're also 3-1 on the season, goal differential +6. Nice wins over Luton Town and Newcastle here back to back. Newcastle, again, a Champions League team just like Man U. And that's another reason I really like Brighton. +125 if the draw is in there as a push, or 195 if you're just taking them to win. Man U are Champions League qualified. So 2 days later on the 20th, on Monday, they have a Champions League group stage matchup that they need to get into. So 2 days later. So a lot of these guys I think that are playing for them, I think are not going to play a lot of minutes. So I really like Brighton. +125 with the draw is probably my best pick here, because sometimes with these games where you have underachieving versus overachieving teams, you get some 0-0 games. 0-0 because we're talking about football. Or if you're really feeling spicy, that Brighton +195. So that is our little bit of guidance for you there on football. So,
are you a sports fan or a sports bettor? Are you a handicapper? Do you have a sports information podcast? Sports Video Library is a platform that brings thousands of sports fans and sports bettors together with dozens of pro and amateur handicappers all on one convenient location. Handicappers and sports analysts host short video clips and podcasts daily. Each video provides free picks on today's sporting events. So whether it's the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, college basketball or college football, horse racing, soccer, tennis, golf, UFC, boxing, or even your favorite fantasy sports league, the Sports Video Library will help you, the sports fan, make better and well-informed decisions. So don't hesitate. Get started now at the home for daily free sports picks, the Sports Video Library.
Welcome back in, guys, with the All the Rest podcast. We got Bettor X on the phone. Now, Bettor X coming in to you guys from Green Valley Sports, likes to keep his identity secret. He's worried that once you see how many winners he's cashing, the books are not going to want to give him action anymore. But we're lucky to have him. He's here to give us one bet to save the weekend. Bettor X, welcome in. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Chad, it's a pleasure, man. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely.
And I'll get right to it. I mean,
sure.
I know all the bettors out there are salivating with what's going on for this week.
Absolutely.
As I am as well. The matchup that I've isolated, it's a revenge spot for this Detroit Lions team. They're facing off against the Seattle Seahawks. Many will remember this is a matchup exactly from last year where the Seahawks were in a shootout with them. The Seahawks were victorious in that game.
90 points, right? Something like that, yeah.
Yep, it was a shootout, and what people are making the mistake with is thinking it's going to be the same kind of outcome in the same spot. But people have to remember, this is not the Lions team even of last year.
Sure.
With the additions from their, mainly with Jack Campbell, the addition of C.J. Gardner-Johnson on defense, and then just the playmakers with Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama.
Right.
They have Laputa out of with the tight end. Just all around, what people have to remember as well, this is a game the Lions started preparing for after they defeated the Chiefs on that Thursday. So
right.
Before Geno Smith even played his first game against the Rams, they were already preparing for the Seahawks team.
Right, and we had that game on Thursday night based on the things you're talking about right now, the additions of the defensive backs and some of the weapons. So we were right there with you.
And again, in this matchup, a lot of people will look at this line. This line actually opened at -6, and the fact that it's dropping to minus 5.5 down to even some places at 4.5. The reason why it is there's no injuries on any side of the Lions. Everyone's going to be there. Again, this is all the public mindset of looking at a team who lost week 1 to a Rams team that was depleted. I mean, Aaron Donald, if you saw with what he did to him, just wait until Aiden Hutchinson gets a chance.
They made that Rams team. The Seahawks made that Rams team look like world beaters, and they are not that. So
yeah, that's not the Rams team that won the Super Bowl from a couple years ago.
It is not.
No, I mean they were out, with their defenses depleted, with no Cooper Kupp. I mean, the fact that Geno Smith had trouble against a team like that. Now they're playing a team off of extended rest. Like I said, they've been off since Thursday, so now they're going home. That place is going to be rocking. It's going to be a sold-out crowd.
Yep.
I won't be surprised when the Lions win this game by a touchdown minimum, but don't be surprised when it's a double-digit winner.
All right, it's good to hear. I think I see it hovering in that 5.5 range.
Don't be afraid of it. Yeah, even if it jumps back up to 6, it's still a winner.
As long as it's staying right in that spot, I think I agree with you there. Me and JD Rouse talked about it a little bit, but we both like it. I think there's some good touchdown value in that game too, but we both also like the Lions to win in a pretty handily fashion. We like them to go up early and just keep on the gas. I think with the revenge factor involved, I think that they're gonna keep hammering on the points as well. So I know we can't keep you on the line too long. I know that they're keeping track of your tabs on your phone, so we'll let you go. We appreciate you being in. We'll see you next week for your one bet to save them all. Thank you for coming in with us this week.
Yeah, Chad, it's a pleasure, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, and we love having you. So we are going to be right back. We're going to take one more break. We're going to have one more advertisement from you guys for the Sports Video Library, and we'll be right back to finish out this week's All the Rest podcast. Stick around.
Are you a sports fan or a sports bettor? Are you a handicapper? Do you have a sports information podcast? Sports Video Library is a platform that brings thousands of sports fans and sports bettors together with dozens of pro and amateur handicappers all on one convenient location. Handicappers and sports analysts host short video clips and podcasts daily. Each video provides free picks on today's sporting events. So whether it's the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, college basketball or college football, horse racing, soccer, tennis, golf, UFC, boxing, or even your favorite fantasy sports league, the Sports Video Library will help you, the sports fan, make better and well-informed decisions. So don't hesitate. Get started now at the home for daily free sports picks, the Sports Video Library.
Welcome back, guys, to the All the Rest podcast. Thank you for being here this week. This wraps up our week 2. We had some great anytime touchdown plays with JD Rouse. We looked at a couple fantasy plays we liked. We liked some weird props. Hopefully we can continue our run of undefeated weird props this week as well. Mr. Rouse gave us a round robin we liked. You got a little bit of football, Grove's guidance if you came and clicked on the wrong place, if you were looking for football instead of football. We had Bettor X on the line this week for the second time. In the dark last week, but actually on the podcast this week, giving us his one bet to save them all, that Lions -5.5, -6, -5, wherever that line ends up going. So hopefully you find some winners this week. We'll be back next week. I'm sure the beginning of the podcast segment where we book all of our winners and we talk all the ones that we've cashed in will be much longer this week and every week following as we continue to crush the books and crush bookies and book winners in both college and the NFL. So thank you guys for coming in. Click that like and subscribe button if you are here on YouTube. If you're here on the Sports Video Library, thank you guys for being here. Keep looking out for us. So go ahead and favorite our podcast. We're going to have one out for you guys every week. We're going to have JD Rouse and we're going to have Bettor X back with us, giving us some good insight on all the things you see here on the left. So again, thanks for coming in. And this is Chad Grove from Green Valley Sports on the Sports Video Library, signing off.